Let's talk diet. For some, this may be controversial, and for some, this may resonate immensely. Either way, you're welcome to leave any thoughts or views down below. So what diet should we eat? What about the keto diet, intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast, eating breakfast, oxalates, lectins, FODMAPS, anti-nutrients, gluten, and the thousands upon thousands of absurd dietary trends that are out there. In fact, I recently had a patient come in who was following the BBB diet, which I thought was a joke, the beef, bacon, and butter diet, before I researched it. Okay, I want to start with the basics. And if I can dare say, don't worry about the specifics of all that nutritional noise, because it misses and neglects to teach the big picture, which we need to start with first. So we begin with the big picture and a little punch in the face, right? Step one of the dietary journey is making a decision to simply eat more foods as Mother Nature intended, right? In their natural, unadulterated state. Then and only then, we can discuss the specifics and more nuanced individual approach. In our office, I call this concept first things first, second things second. In other words, if you're eating Twinkies, drinking soda, drinking alcohol every night, and still eating hot dogs and chicken nuggets, don't worry about demonizing kale and beans and grains because of their oxalic acid and lectins, as some of the gurus out there would suggest. Don't worry about what supplement to take. Start with first things first. Take the processed foods and factory farmed animal products out of the diet, and then let's get into the individual, more nuanced approaches on how an individual whole food may be affecting you. But don't get distracted and avoid taking this very crucial first step. In fact, this step involves no reading, researching, or figuring out the dietary trends that are out there. Start with first things first. Start by adding more whole foods into the diet and replacing processed and factory farmed animal products immediately. Another big picture decision is deciding if you're going to embrace a plant-centric, right? This is a diet predominantly centered around plants, or my ultimate recommendation that embraces the tenets and lifestyle of a completely whole food plant-based approach. To me, there are really only two dietary options available: real foods with or without animals. For the sake of this video, we're going to call it Whole Foods Paleo versus a truly whole food plant-based dietary approach. After that decision is made, we can begin with second things second as we begin to individualize the diet for your specific constitution. Elimination of certain whole foods like grains and gluten, how to intermittent fast, ratios of macronutrients, and much more. Let me be clear, when I use the term whole food plant-based diet, I am not talking about a processed fake meat, soy hot dog, soy hamburger, vegan Twinkie, potato chip based dietary approach. Rather, I want you to think in terms of greens, sweet potatoes, avocados, beans, rice, quinoa, nuts and seeds, mushroom, fruit, and an enormous abundance of the most nutrient-dense food, sprouts. The technical label could be stated as a whole foods, low glycemic, high nutrient dense, biogenic or alive, sun-ripened, plant-based diet, right? In other words, real plants, low in sugar, lots of nutrients, and grown in as close to idyllic Mother Nature conditions as we possibly can. All right, so let's continue the discussion on what we agree on, or what the paleo and the plant-based communities have in common. Both camps would agree on demonizing processed foods and factory farmed animal products because they both want you to eat the way Mother Nature intended. You might be thinking, I don't eat factory farmed animal products. Think again. 99% of the livestock in the US are factory farmed. So every time you eat out, you drink coffee with cream, go to the local supermarket, 99% of what you purchase comes from a factory farm. It's ubiquitous. And labels such as humane, grass-fed, free range, they oftentimes don't mean anything unless you're able to really visit the local farmer and see for yourself. For example, free range can mean access to the outdoors, or deceptively putting like a window that is inaccessible to the animals in an already established factory farm. There is no one, I believe, in either camp that would agree these foods are healthy. There is no one, in my opinion, that after visiting a factory farm would consider these horrid conditions of mass confinement, abuse, torture, antibiotic pumping, the use of GMO feed to be worthy of a consideration to enter the temple we call our body. If you wanted to dismiss the conditions of factory farming, think about this analogy. Imagine you left fruit outside in the heat for weeks. It is now fermented, smells horrific, and is infested with bugs. Would you eat it? Of course not. In the same way, if you saw the final condition of the chicken or dairy cow prior to slaughter, you're going to get the same knee-jerk reaction, right? Because we've been deceived. It's been dressed up and cooked to hide the fact that you're eating a once rotten, disease-infected, antibiotic-laced, and sickly animal. In the book, I have broken down 3 ways we can obtain nutrients. They're called primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary sources include plants in their natural state. Secondary nutrients include animals. And tertiary sources include those primary and secondary nutrients, right? Plants and animals, highly processed, such as in what we find in processed foods and factory farmed animal products. Tertiary sources are often 3, 4, 5 times removed from Mother Nature, the true Frankenstein food. Here's the basic premise to remember. Your ill health and all degenerative diseases are directly proportional to the amount of secondary and tertiary nutrient sources a person eats. And on the opposite side, our optimal health and prevention of disease is directly proportional to the amount of primary source nutrients a person eats. Plants. The primary source are the cleanest sources and contain the most amount of vitamins and minerals. We call this nutrient density. Secondary and tertiary sources, right, animals and processed foods, have the least amount of nutrients. We refer to this as nutrient poor, have the highest toxic burden, the greatest level of inflammatory burden, highly acidic, oxygen poor, and the least amount of light or vital energy. What exactly is light or vital energy? Well, the true story of food energy is the story of stars, right? The universe is in the star-making business. When a star is birthed, it makes the elements, planetary systems, and it provides energy for all of life. Back on Earth, green plants learn to capture the energy of one star, called our sun, through the magic of photosynthesis. This amazing process stores potential energy from the sun as chemical bonds of sugar within the leaves and the stems of the plant. When animals eat the plant, digestion and cellular respiration inside our body break the chemical bonds and release the stored energy as ATP, energy from stars. All organisms exist at various levels on the great food web of life. The first and the lowest contain the producers, right? The green plants. The higher levels include animals with the largest biomass or size. Toxin accumulation and magnification mirror the position an organism holds within the food chain. So at the top of the food chain, we have the greatest level of environmental toxins, pesticides, herbicides, GMOs, and biotoxins like yeast and bacteria. In addition, the light energy available is also lowest for these tertiary nutrients. Think of it this way. Foods that are dense and heavy, like animal products, or a meal of pasta, bread, and wine, don't give you energy. They actually steal energy from you, and they even want to make you take a nap, right? Primary source nutrients, right? Green plants, as an example, are the closest source to light energy. And when you eat them, your body is gifted with light and vitality. Let's talk research for a minute. Let's look at the documented longest lived populations that are virtually free of degenerative diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, chronic fatigue, obesity, cancer, autoimmunity, and so much more. Obviously, there are many contributing factors to health, including familial bonds, movement, exercise, meaning and purpose in life, and much more. So we're just going to focus on the dietary aspect for now, which shows a whole food plant-based diet is a consistent thread among the diverse centenarian populations of the world. In addition, we can look to some of the largest studies and longevity research to date, including the China Cornell Oxford Project, which is also referred to as the China Study, the Seventh-day Adventist Health Study from Loma Linda University, the Blue Zones research from National Geographic researcher Dan Buettner, as well as the original research on the Mediterranean diet, which came from the island of Crete, where they ate seasonally, locally, they consumed 10 to 12 servings of fruit and vegetables. All of these diets made up 80-90% of a plant-based approach. That means if animal products were eaten, they were consumed 2, 3, 4 times a week. Imagine if they were 100%. To end this discussion, I want to look at this from a completely different perspective. So almost no one today believes they are a physical body. Most people I talk with believe that they are a conglomerate of mind, body, and spirit. In other words, we have a body, we have emotions, we have a mind, we engage in relationships, and we possess a spirit, right? We've all heard the saying, right? We are in fact spiritual beings inhabiting a physical body. Even though we know this intuitively, we still tend to make decisions about our health and take actions as if we were only a body. In other words, we can choose to eat from an egocentric lens, defined as eating to simply satisfy taste, pleasure, and emotional fluctuations, while we ignore the impact these foods have on our health, the environment, and the animals that were tortured. Or we can eat from a more cosmocentric, integral lens of consciousness, a shift I call I to we, that recognizes our interconnectedness. This would be defined as both and. In other words, we want to take into account our taste and preferences, of course, our emotional weather patterns, and the impact it has on their environment, our future self, and the animals. The pain, torture, and suffering of a sentient creature doesn't just vanish. We participate in eating the pain, torture, and suffering. Our physical, emotional, mental, relational, and spiritual bodies have to be taken into account. It's a boomerang effect. We reap what we sow. The goal with nutrition is to make decisions for the entire dimensional spectrum of you, contribute ourselves to peace, love, and compassion, and to biohack and maximize longevity and quality of life, right? Aging. I have provided a no-nonsense approach in food pyramid based on my years of research and thousands upon thousands of patients I have worked with. Please look over and study the food and needs pyramid and begin to implement these changes. Increase your light and enjoy the fruits of optimal health. Thanks so much for listening.